Welcome to the show. The Islamic Republic of Iran is now showing the first signs of internal cracking. Iran's leadership is splitting right down the middle. The IRGC is openly ridiculing their president in public and brushing him off, basically saying, "We don't listen to you, we'll do whatever we want." It's beginning. Also, President Trump's foreign policy win streak continues as the communist regime in Cuba appears to be on the verge of collapse. We're hearing it could be a matter of hours, maybe days. And back stateside, Trump's push to get the Save America Act through may be working. Big news and a major update on how likely this bill is to pass. Let's start with Iran.
So at this hour, Israel and Hezbollah are exchanging fire across Israel's northern border with Lebanon, while the United Arab Emirates are reporting incoming Iranian ballistic missile fires and a drone attack as well. So take a look at some of the damage here in these regional countries. This all comes after Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian promised that Iran's neighbors would not be attacked anymore. Right here, you see the Dubai International Airport got hit with an Iranian drone this morning. Shortly before that, an Iranian drone damaged an oil facility in southern Iraq. Iran also claims it hit an oil tanker in the Strait of Hormuz this morning.
The Islamic Republic of Iran, its government effectively split in two this morning. Iran's president delivered a televised statement saying they were wrong to strike their neighbors in the Gulf. Our commanders, he said, are operating under pre-war directives. We will not attack you going forward. You have my word, so long as the United States doesn't attack us from your territory or territorial waters. Then, just 4 hours later, the IRGC resumed attacks on those same neighbors, completely disregarding the president, and issued a public statement. The IRGC declared our president, the Iranian president, is weak, a leader's mistake. In this official IRGC message, they said they would ignore the president's words during the war, openly overruling him while claiming the supreme leader is dead. The president, in our view, has zero authority. The IRGC is now in charge. Iranian state media also picked sides today, publicly stripping the president of standing in the public arena. This is almost unheard of. They released an editorial accusing their own president of surrendering to Gulf countries, calling it a burden on the nation's spirit in the middle of war, essentially saying, "Take the microphone away from him." The piece argued that his televised address showed confusion and weakness and criticized him for describing recent strikes on Gulf countries as accidental, saying that labeling them fire at will damages Iran's deterrence strategy and gives the enemy legal arguments to challenge Iran's claim of legitimate self-defense. The harshest criticism, though, centered on his apology to those Gulf states. Iranian state TV called it an unforgivable mistake, saying that while the region remains on a wartime footing, any hint of restraint or reconciliation weakens Iran's deterrence posture. They concluded by saying that until a third supreme leader is chosen, official platforms should be handled by figures who project strength and reflect the armed forces' battlefield posture. Yikes. President Trump is taking advantage of the infighting, posting on Truth Social, Iran, which is being beat to hell, has apologized and surrendered to its Middle East neighbors and promised that it won't shoot at them anymore. This pledge, he said, only happened because of relentless U.S. and Israeli attacks. He claimed Iran was trying to take over and rule the Middle East, and that this is the first time in thousands of years Iran has lost to surrounding Middle Eastern countries. He said they told him, "Thank you, Mr. President." And President Trump said, "You're welcome." He added that Iran is no longer the bully of the Middle East, but the loser of the Middle East, and will remain so for decades, until they surrender or, more likely, fully collapse. He said Iran may be hit very hard, with serious consideration for complete destruction and certain death because of Iran's bad behavior, and that areas and groups not previously considered for targeting are now on the table. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Meanwhile, Trump's foreign policy run continues. The Cuban communist regime also appears close to falling. The island is in full upheaval. Protests have been raging for 3 straight days. Power across the island is completely shut down. The grid has been down for days, and the Cuban people are rising up. President Trump said this afternoon that Cuba is in its final moments.
As a little boy, I'd be hearing about Cuba. Cuba's a disaster. But I've been hearing so much about Cuba. But Cuba is in its last moments of life, as it was. It'll have a great new life, but it's in its last moments of life the way it is. But our focus right now is on Iran, and we'll do that. I would say, what will you do? Take about 2 days off, Marco? No, he won't. Maybe an hour. He'll take 1 hour off, and then he'll finish up a deal on Cuba. That'll be an easy one. But it'll be the entire region that we're doing that. Many of you have come today, and they say, I hope you can take care of Cuba, because you've had problems with Cuba, right? You mentioned.
If this happens, and from what we can tell, it's about to, it means China and Russia are losing allies one after another. Syria has flipped to a U.S.-aligned stance. Venezuela is now a U.S. ally. Cuba is next. And then the biggest one, Iran. Just last week, Democrats were still trying to minimize what happened in Venezuela, arguing that Trump left the regime in place. Not so fast. He pulled off the best kind of regime change: no war, no boots on the ground, and no civil war. He achieved a change from within. It's the kind of approach China has hoped to use in Taiwan for years. Trump used China's own strategy on one of their allies, flipping Venezuela into a U.S. ally with almost no bloodshed. This afternoon, Venezuela's new president, Delcy Rodriguez, confirmed the shift in loyalty, writing on X that President Trump received the decision as recognition of the Venezuelan people and their just cause for the truth of the country, and that they reiterate their willingness to build long-term relations based on mutual respect and equality. That was a masterclass in how regime change should be done. If it's going to happen, it should look like what we just saw in Venezuela. The big question, though, is whether Trump can pull off something similar in Iran. Let's hope he can. Meanwhile, back stateside, Trump's effort to push the Save America Act through the Senate appears to be gaining traction. Yesterday, we reported that President Trump was working with Ken Paxton to pressure Senate Leader Thun into agreeing to invoke the talking filibuster. Thun has been urging Trump to endorse John Cornyn.
His own decisions, but I've certainly weighed in many times, I should say, in support of Senator Cornyn, and I believe he is not only going to win the primary, but the general election in November.
Yeah, I was just watching Matt Whitlock, who used to do the Republican Senate committee. He said he believes that an endorsement for Cornyn is coming from the president. You said you just spoke with him. Is it coming shortly, that endorsement from the president?
Well, I'm not going to characterize the conversations I've had with the president, but I think it's fair to say that he's paying a lot of attention, and he knows full well, Megan, how important it is that we hold Texas in Republican column, Republican hands, and so I expect you'll be hearing from him before too long. And I'm not certainly going to get ahead of that, but I'm just very hopeful that the endorsement will be for John.
Cornyn isn't Trump's ideal candidate. Yesterday, Ken Paxton said he would consider dropping out of the race if Leader Thun and Cornyn agree to invoke the talking filibuster for the Save America Act. Paxton wrote, "The Save America Act is the most important bill the U.S. Senate could ever pass, and I'm committed to helping Trump get it done. I would consider dropping out of this race if Senate leadership agrees to lift the filibuster and pass the Save America Act." Well, would you look at that? Moments ago, John Cornyn caved to the pressure and agreed to support the talking filibuster, something he previously refused to do. This is huge. Cornyn wrote, "I have supported the Save America Act from day one. I will happily support the talking filibuster if that's what it takes to pass this into law." There are still a few GOP holdouts who need to be persuaded to make this happen, but this is a start. And it matters because Cornyn carries a lot of influence in the U.S. Senate. He's been there forever, and he's close to John Thun. I don't know exactly what Trump worked out with them, but we do know the Save America Act is priority number one for President Trump. He wrote this morning, the U.S. Senate should focus exclusively, if necessary, on the Save America Act. It's what everyone wants. Yes, it is. Not just what we want, but what this country needs. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you very soon.